I'm curious if that anxiety of pressure in social situations where something isn't fully decided, something isn't fully planned, something isn't fully done well, that you've got a bunch of people in the financial planning community that are used to being the responsible one. They're used to organizing information, they're used to communicating in a really easy to understand way. And so when we join these different groups that we're involved with, whether it be a faith community, a service community, a friend community, in your family, you may tend to be the person that's the one planning all the things.
Liz Hand is a certified financial planner for women approaching retirement who want to feel good about themselves and their money. She's also a mindset coach to financial advisors who want to show up better for their family, clients, and self. Liz loves to expand joy in the lives of people she works with. In both areas of her work, she gets to connect people's head and heart to what matters most and what is precious for them in their lives. Liz, it's such a wonderful joy to be here with you. And I know that we are both crazy about mindset, and in particular, when it comes to financial advisors and how they block themselves and how they can get past those challenges to expand their practice and feel more fulfilled. Let's start at the beginning. Can you share some of your journey with us? What brought you into financial planning and also into doing mindset work with financial advisors?
Sure. Yeah, it's great to be with you, Nina. I'm loving how kindred spirits we are. So I started as a financial advisor, at least on the path towards financial advising in eighth grade. My dad was a financial advisor, and he always said I had a great personality. It would be great for me to enter the field. There's not that many women in the field, so it would be a great opportunity. And I kind of took it hook, line, sinker, and charted that path. I, in high school, would have studied all of the business oriented courses, anything finance oriented. Going into college, studied financial planning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, came into his practice. And from there, it was about year 3, I believe, that we purchased another business, and I started the succession process with another advisor, took over his book. And a few years ago, my brother and I purchased the practice from my dad. So in that process, there's a lot of change that happens. And even before then, when I had turned about 30, it might have been on my 30th birthday, I just started to feel this relationship to time, like almost an anxiety with it. And I didn't know exactly what that was. I knew that in the field of financial advising, it was really difficult as a 20 something female to feel like I belonged. And so when I got into my 30s, I started going to places where there were people either similarly aged or also female in the field. And I realized, like, oh no, I definitely belong here. And so with that, understanding who I am in my 30s, starting to take over the practice with my father, I needed support. I needed a lot of support to gain the confidence to have the conversations that I needed to really chart the path that I wanted, and to understand what it was that I wanted to create as an advisor.
So in terms of you feeling that, you maybe didn't have the confidence earlier on, why do you think that confidence can be a block for more women entering this area?
I think in your 20s specifically, there's a way, I'll just name it. You're sexualized. And so you're in the office, and there's a lot of attention to what you wear. And it comes out in little side comments, and it can be from a wholesaler, a colleague, it can be from a client. And it's just a lot to navigate. And in that time, you're young, and that the industry values gray hair, right? Because wisdom. And so you're trying to find your footing and prove that you belong, that you know what you're talking about. You've got the designations to back it up. But at the same time, it's almost like you're undermined in the little ways around the edges. Like, I've had a lot of really uncomfortable situations occur. For example, I was pregnant, and a client touched my belly. A male client touched my belly.
Wow.
Yeah, like that's really uncomfortable. That's really inappropriate. I don't know
Yes.
if there's any equivalent that a male could experience in that. Or there was a prospective client and he said, well, you're such a beautiful woman. Da, 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 da. And it's like, I don't know when a male will experience like, you're such a handsome, strapping man. Can you manage my finances? There's just not really an equivalent that happens for men. And in those years of your 20s, they're pretty fragile, I'd say. So.
And looking back on the lessons that you learned and how to deal with these situations and grow your confidence, for all the female financial planners, advisors who are listening, what could you pass on to them that may help them?
I guess to continue talking about the experiences that happen. They happen and they happen so quickly. At least for me, growing up in the Midwest of the United States, there's a way that I'm very trained to be a good girl. I'm trained to smile, have a pleasant demeanor, as to not rock the boat with anybody. And so when those circumstances come up, my natural inclination, my trained inclination is to kind of laugh it off like, that's so funny. It's not funny. And so in the spaces with other advisors, other female advisors, you can share those stories. Like, for example, just a couple of weeks ago, I had a relative stop in the office, and I'm 15 years into the business. I own Pleasant Wealth. I've purchased it for my dad. This person knows all of that information. I'm a certified financial planner, like top designations within the industry. So he walks in, I pop out behind the desk and I go to give him a hug. And he said, oh, it's not every day you get to hug a secretary. And I said, that's funny. I'm not a secretary. You'll have to find another day for that. But like those little encapsulated moments, those can completely rock a week, a day. And so if you have that space to talk about it with other women and for them to encourage you and be like, no, that wasn't right. Or, wow, you handled that really well. Look at that zinger you shot back. That was kind, but also showed him that he could not keep you in that box. Those are supportive things for women.
I'm so glad that there is a supportive element there. And obviously not all men are like this in the financial advisory world. There's obviously very respectful men, etc. But there is, and it's an old conditioning. It goes back through generations and generations. And there's so much more awareness of it now.
Right. Yeah.
But I wonder if there are certain industries where it hasn't infiltrated as much as other industries.
I don't know. That would be very fascinating to know. I'm sure there's a reverse that happens in the more female-centric fields. If a male is there that might not have the intuition that they need, or might not have the intuition they need to approach a situation. What I do know is my husband and I have a fairly role-flipped relationship where he's at home with our kids. And he definitely experiences it as being the stay-at-home parent,
yes,
where the schools go outside of him. They contact me and I'm like, well, I don't know. You're going to have to call my husband. So I know there are spaces where males feel it too. And I don't want to minimize that. I also agree. Like, I don't think every male is like this. I don't think every situation, even that relative that said that thing to me, that was one moment in time. It's not like all of his life is pegged to that moment. So
absolutely. So with the mindset work that you've done, how has that helped you in terms of growing your confidence within this industry? Was there something in particular that you learned that you can share with our listeners that you think may be helpful to them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as I've gone on my own mindset journey, what I've noticed is that my wire can get tripped pretty quickly of feeling embarrassed, or there's a certain number of stories that are frequent offenders, I'll say.
Yes, I can identify with that.
I'm not smart. People are angry at me. And like I messed up, and a mistake is like the worst thing. And that trips into the other two. So with those, what I found is that there's some predictable behaviors and feelings that come with that. And so when I and I don't often catch it right when it happens. I'll catch it later because I'm in the pattern and I've distinguished what the pattern is. And I don't even know that I could rattle off the pattern if that's going to be the next question, but it's just a way of like, oh, I notice I'm fixated on this person's opinion of me. Oh, I am connecting that to their anger at me. Oh, I wonder what happened. Oh yeah, there was that one moment today where they had that look and I made a lot of assumptions based on that look. That did not necessarily mean that was about me. And the moment I can separate out myself and not take things so personally, the moment I am more free, my mindset is more open, and I'm charting my path versus catering to caretaking everybody else.
That's so, I love what you've just said, because this is the core of the work that I do, that I've done on myself over many years and still continue to do, and with my clients. It's all about the meaning that we make up in our head about a certain look someone gives us or what they've said, something that's happened. And all of these things are neutral, the memories are neutral, and we attach a negative meaning, which triggers us into feeling we're not good enough, there's something wrong with us, it's a dangerous world, and all of those self-esteem issues which are lurking hidden, and then they just pop up every now and then when you least expect them to. And as you said, they can ruin your day. They can ruin your, 2 days, 3 days, and you're mulling over it thinking, what did I do wrong? They're angry with me. So this is stuff which happens automatically. Our minds are wired, our thinking is wired, that one thing leads to another, leads to the other, leads to the other in a very predictable way now, if we were to look at our patterns of thinking. So this is such a great thing. And I'd love to dive more into it in the context of financial planners. What do you see? Because, you've worked with them, you're amongst them. What do you see as the big mindset blocks that some of them are facing, which are stopping them from, being more successful, having a more fulfilling practice?
The water I swim in with financial planners, I just want to distinguish that financial services is really broad, and I think there's pockets of cultures. The one that I swim in is a sea of financial planners that are really caring. They're really thoughtful. They're super bright. They don't often know the full impact that they have on others, or maybe they block themselves from seeing it. But I also notice that what they tend to do, and I say they, but I really mean me included in the mix. So we, there's a way of putting themselves in the middle of a lot of relationships and making it so that other people rely on them. And I don't think it's from a conscious place. I think there might be a sense of anxiety. Like I just watched Inside Out 2 recently. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
I've seen the first one.
Yeah, the second one is fantastic. And the depiction of anxiety is just brilliant, like so good. And I'm curious if that anxiety of pressure in social situations where something isn't fully decided, something isn't fully planned, something isn't fully done well, that you've got a bunch of people in the financial planning community that are used to being the responsible one. They're used to organizing information. They're used to communicating in a really easy to understand way. And so when we join these different groups that we're involved with, whether it be a faith community, a service community, a friend community, in your family, you may tend to be the person that's the one planning all the things, making everything happen, making it special. And in that putting yourself in the center, you take the majority of the responsibility on yourself, which creates a lot of work, time, energy, effort. It also keeps others from experiencing their own ability to plan, communicate, fail, learn, all of the things. And so I think if an advisor wants to expand their capabilities, start taking yourself out of the center. Stop being the treasurer, the party planner. Stop being the elf on a shelf parent. Whatever it is that you have made yourself be because you feel like you have to, otherwise other people will be let down, and see what else springs forth.
Interesting. So this takes up the work, their time, their energy. So do you think there's some fear underlying that behavior where they have to, feel they have to be in charge and in control and the center of it all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the fear is upset of other people. I don't know if that's accurate for everybody, but that is what it is for me. Like I'm always so clued into the emotional status of the room I'm in or the group that I'm in. And I want people to feel good. Like I want the experience to be great. I want delight to happen, all of those things. And so when I want those things and I believe it's not happening externally and I come from that place of fear, then I'll put myself in the center every time.
To try and save everyone and make sure everyone's
Yeah.
okay and having a good time and all of that. Okay, that's interesting. I tend to have a really strong antennae for underdogs. I was the youngest in my family, and I felt that, I was neglected by my mum in particular, and she spent more time with my brother and sisters. So I felt like the underdog in my family. So if I'm in a room or in a group and I feel someone is being badly treated or they're too scared to speak up, because I immediately identify with that person, or the youngest child, I tend to identify more with them. And so I will rush to rescue them and, help them to speak up or whatever it is. It's just so funny, isn't it? Because all of this comes from our childhood and the roles that we played in our family. So in terms of, let's talk about growing profit, growing AUM. How do you think financial planners, financial advisors get in their own way when it comes to maybe working with higher wealth clients, you're taking on a new team member, expanding, taking a risk, asking for a bigger fee? How do you think they stop themselves or talk themselves out of those expansive measures?
When I think about freeing up space to pursue that, from that perspective of like putting yourself in the center of tasks and things and planning, um, I imagine that advisors have a really hard time delegating because it's really difficult to see somebody else fail or stall or be confused. Like, I think those are actually triggers for advisors. It's a hunch. It's not like it'd be curious if your listeners respond back and say,
so
yeah,
tell me more
totally.
about that. Where does that come from? Is that if having to be in control is to make sure that everyone's okay? Is it taking on the responsibility for everyone?
I think it comes to those moments of uncertainty. By being a planner, naturally, you are clearing uncertainty out of the way. You're charting a path. You are making specific goals that people can tangibly walk towards, and you're moving out of the way any tax bombs or unutilized contribution places or maximizing out retirement so that nobody gets left in that uncertain place of not having enough or surprise. And so to me, I go back to that place of uncertainty. If there is uncertainty in the air, an advisor is more likely to grab a hold. I'll just do the task because it's easier for me to do it. They probably don't get it anyway. Oh, that's so uncomfortable for me. I'll just do it real quick. What that does is it hamstrings your team. I had a coach tell me, she was like, she used the words overperforming into their underperformance. And so I think advisors can get into the weeds of what's happening day to day with their office and not create the space to be that expansive self that brings in those higher paying clients, those higher AUM clients, those bigger fee opportunities, because they get into the weeds of the day to day. When they start to hand off work, they get really uncomfortable. They take it back. They fire that person because that person wasn't capable enough or whatever. And now, again, assumption, assertion may not be the thing. Just notice some of that in my own behavior. And if it's helpful, use it. If it's not helpful, leave it.
So it's really being in control. It's having to be in control and kind of micromanaging every part of the business. And I'm imagining that puts a huge amount of pressure on them because they're doing $10, $20 an hour jobs, as well as doing the $1,000 an hour jobs. And it gives them less time to work on their business because they're in the minutiae, as you said, the weeds of the daily running of their practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other piece that I'm really curious about is advisors and their relationship to being right or wrong. And so in putting themselves out there in a way that attracts those new clients, you have to make some statements in the social media or in advertising or in your pitch. And sometimes people relate to fear of what are others going to say? What if this isn't exactly right? I need to go and research that thing so I know the exact details of the information before I could even write a blog. And so that fear of being wrong, I think also can impact the way that someone pursues new prospects, or it allows like people in the world to hear your voice, your way of doing things, and to start resonating with you.
Yeah, because everyone's unique. Mm-hmm. And even though you may be still in the same service, you sell it in your own unique way, your own unique tone of voice. Yeah. And that's what people gravitate towards. They'll gravitate towards you as a person. Are you warm? Are you engaging? Are you a safe pair of hands? All of those things. So do you think there is this reluctance to put personality into marketing in large part?
Yes. I don't know that it's personality necessarily, but knowing what to say and fearing that you're going to say the wrong thing or going to look a certain way or be judged a certain way. And that is the stop, that they never even fully get to develop their voice in writing.
So do you mean putting the wrong information out, the technical information, or something about themselves and their practice?
Yeah, the technical information, I think.
Got it. And that can hold them back from marketing fully.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So interesting.
Well, I think, part of it is like any piece of media that we put out there, a social media post, a picture, a blog post, a podcast, it's a soundbite of who we are. And if the fear is so big that someone will take one soundbite and make a judgment on me forever and ever, amen, of course you're not going to pursue that. If the way that you relate to putting stuff on social media is, this is an idea right now and I'm a growing person, it's going to change over time. If you want to be on the journey with me, if you find this interesting, follow along. And if you don't, cool, not my person, totally fine. Those are two very different vibes.
And that links back to wanting to be liked and wanting to make sure everyone's happy in the room. And But for me, when I market, I think, well, this isn't going to resonate with everyone. Some people aren't going to be interested in what I have to say. But it's only the people who are resonating that I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. The others, they'll find someone else. It's absolutely fine. So my focus is always on the people that I can build a relationship with. But I know from working with clients that sometimes they're really worried about trying to please everyone. And you can't do that. It's impossible in marketing, isn't it?
Possible, yeah. In life.
In life.
I just keep learning that lesson over and over and over of like, it is impossible to please everybody. And it's also impossible to please everybody at every moment, or any one person at every moment. And when I keep releasing that expectation off of myself that I should be able to do that, then I get to be more expansive with who I am in the world and the things that I'm willing to dabble with and experiment on. And I've seen a lot of success come from that.
And it builds authenticity as well. The more that you're not worried about pleasing everyone, you can just be who you are. And again, that'll resonate with some people, not with others. And I've found, because I grew up trying to get everyone to like me, that I used to try and be who I thought they wanted me to be, which meant that I was completely inauthentic so many times. And I came across as inauthentic, which meant that they wouldn't like me even less than if I'd just been myself. And that is the big lesson that I've learned in life, that just be who you are. And, it's not my job to make everyone like me or to please everyone. It's their job to make themselves happy. I can't make someone happy.
Yeah, what a relief.
What a relief. In terms of the pressures of being a financial planner, have you found ways of coping with the pressure that you could share with our listeners? Is there anything that's worked particularly well for you?
Yeah, lots of different things. Um, so I've identified through working with a coach, I've identified what my who I am in the world when I'm at my highest self. So what's present, and you can find that when I am full vibe, Liz Hand, not worried about any external pressures, I am super creative. I'm all heart and joy. I'm hilarious. I am playful. Um, and I can also hold really good space with people. So they've experienced their own authenticity and ability to let down their guard and put all their cards on the table. So those are very present when I am unguarded. And I have different um, kind of reminders that I keep in my desk area, at my home, jewelry. I place them everywhere just to remind me, like, this is really who I am. So that when I feel in the spin of whatever happened with X client, that I can go back to that and say, no, this is who I am. I am not the worst thing. I am not this worst judgment that this person has on me in this moment. And it's okay. What if I just let them have their moment and part ways? The other thing I have in place, my business partner, Clinton, and I, also my brother, we talk about the spiral of doom. And it's when you're in a real spin out and you've had some sort of oversight, or there's some sort of external pressure that's come in, and you are just kind of your mind is just starting to spiral about all the worst things that are going to happen. You're starting to troubleshoot, you know, iterations out of the repercussions of the repercussions of the repercussions, and we're all out of business. You
And the
catch
sky has
yourself.
fallen in.
Yep. You catch yourself, I'm in a spiral of doom, and you say it to the business partner. And then they can help you work through it, either by fear setting, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Okay, so this client, they get really upset, they pull their money. And oh, these other two clients are related to them. They also get upset because of it and they pull their money. How does that impact the bottom line? Okay, not going to be that big of a deal. I can move forward. That's one way of handling it. The other way is just like, what do you need? Have you taken a walk? Just asking some questions around it, just to give some relief to the internal spiral of doom that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful. I really love that. I think most business owners, we come across these moments where we just think, wow, everything's just hitting me in the face one after another.
Yes.
And just taking a step back and having someone who can say, come on, let's look at this. This isn't as bad as it looks. What's the worst thing that can happen? One of my mentors used exactly the same method. He said, I should sit there and think, what's the worst thing that can happen? He said, I'd make peace with that, and then I could move on. and I thought that was such a great way of doing it. Liz, if I were to ask you, what is the biggest lesson that life has taught you so far? What would that be?
The biggest lesson that I've learned is that everyone is having the right experience. And crappy things happen, really hard things happen to people. And I can't fix everything. I can believe that they are going to take that moment, whatever is hard or difficult or sticky or uncomfortable, and learn from it if they want to. But it's not my decision to say whether or not they want to learn from it. And so it's kind of like this deeper trust of all things are being made new. Every hard thing that happens to us is being renewed, redeemed, composted, and can create goodness from there if they're willing to look at it and find the goodness within it.
That's wonderful. I love that. So finally, Liz, how can everyone who's listening find out more about you and the amazing work that you're doing?
Sure. Yeah. As a mindset coach, you can go to my website, www.lizhandcoaching.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. I love posting there. And so you can connect with me there, follow me there. For my financial planning work, it is pleasantwealth.com.
Wonderful. We'll make sure all the links go on. I just want to say once again, thank you for a fantastic interview. Really enjoyed it. I've learned so much. And thank you for all your honesty.
Yeah, a pleasure. Thanks, Nina.